What is up? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. So we finally meet
Yes.
after many months of trying to get this going and false starts, all the other fun stuff. We are Instagram friends, and yeah, it's good to finally meet you. I guess for people who don't know who you are, do you want to give a quick intro?
Yeah. So I'm Maggie Wolff. I create social media content. I've been using the handle data storyteller, although I don't like that handle anymore. So I'm trying to think if I should change it or keep it, whatever. I'm too lazy to update things. But I am also a data scientist, which is not my first career. I pivoted from marketing and have been in analytics and data science now for about 9 years. And so I would get a lot of questions from people like, how did you make the pivot? How did you break into the field? What do you do, etc. And so basically, my content is just me answering all those questions, but then also trying to be the resource that I wish I had when I was making my own pivot into this field. And yeah, so I just, when I have an idea, I pick up my phone and hit record. Uh, and yeah, that's my content calendar is inspiration
It's just,
when I'm motivated enough and I have an idea and something to talk about. But I work in terms of like what I do for my full time work. I'm a data scientist with Box on the business analytics team. Been
with who?
here, Box, so
Okay. Oh,
intelligent
yes.
content management.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been here about 6 months. Really great company. Previously worked in travel tech. And before that, in commercial real estate. And then before that, when I was more in marketing, worked in like healthcare, nonprofits. Yeah,
Yeah, I know you
that's
give a lot of career advice as well. Like I look at your videos. Is there a certain theme to the types of advice that you tend to give?
I mean, I try to be real. Like, I don't create content to like make money. Yes, sometimes I have done sponsored content, but that's not like my goal. So I'm just like, I'm going to keep it real for you. I don't care if I never make a dime off of this. I'm not trying to sell a course, whatever. I'm going to be honest. So yeah, honesty, authenticity, and like being real with people. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat my response and tell them what they want to hear. And then also remembering that, like, I'm just one person. Like I have my unique experience. It's not necessarily universal, and trying to keep that in mind and think about like what experiences have I heard from other people or what are the things that are more universal, and then just give a lot of caveats of like my experience is very unique and that's where I'm coming from. And so I definitely try to stay in my lane. Like I'm not a hiring manager, so I can talk about my experience interviewing and being a candidate, and I've been on the other side a little bit with interviewing, but I've never made hiring decisions, so I can't necessarily like talk to that. And so trying to really like talk about what I think I have the authority to talk about.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And how long have you been doing content for?
So for like analytics and career content, gosh, maybe 3 or 4 years. But I actually, this is like my second go at creating content. I also like maybe 10, 15 years ago had like a running blog when that was like a big thing and blogging was a lot more popular, and I was like getting really into
Yeah.
running and training for a marathon. And so I had running blog there, and I still actually have an Instagram account from those days because I have a lot of like local friends in like the running and fitness community. And then previously when I was working in marketing, I part of my job was like social media content. So this has been, my full-time job that I left. And so kind of like had different hats as a content creator.
Interesting. I think I actually like your perspective on that. So I know people, I have friends that work in marketing too. Some of them, and a lot of them are client facing, trying to help with campaigns, yada yada yada. But what is your experience? Were you using those skills to, I guess, for your own? It sounds like for your own content. Because sometimes I see people who work in marketing who want nothing to do with anything marketing related outside of work. So they have like very little social media presence, very little activity on that end. What was your experience with that?
Yeah, for me, I kind of viewed it as like my sandbox. Like, when you're on the job, like working full time, you're limited to like what the company needs, what your lawyers are willing to let you do, what gets traction. And so part of me was just like really curious, like, because when I was working in healthcare way back when, and it seemed like, all of our competitors had a blog, and my boss was like, we should have a blog. And I was like, why? What are we going to do with this blog? And so I was like, well, let me create my own blog and see like what the heck is up
Mm,
with blogging. And I can like try that in a low risk situation, talking about just my own content, and see like what happens, and see like, do I think I could transfer this to a hospital systems blog? And like, where's the story? Like, what's what is going to resonate with people. What we ended up doing actually was like more of an internal blog because it was like a Catholic hospital system. We were very mission driven. And so we started talking more about like employees and like mission related stories. And like that was really interesting. I'm like, I don't think like the hospital talking about its marketing messages is going to matter to like the external community. But if we talk about, like these interesting employee stories, at least I think internally people will really like that. And so anyway, but yeah, it was like my own little sandbox to like try things out before bringing it to my actual job.
Yeah, that's good to get the sandbox things. And blogging back then, I think it was a lot of WordPress, some Tumblr,
Yeah.
I believe, was also the big one back then.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, WordPress is still around, but now it's act number two. It seems like everybody's on Substack now.
Yeah.
Uh, do you have a Substack too?
I do. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's sometimes I feel like it's just easier to write than like to create a video because like so my biggest following is on TikTok, but like I've been kind of getting bored with just like doing one-way conversations to record a TikTok video. And so kind of getting back to like my roots of blogging, like I've really enjoyed Substack
Oh, interesting.
and just like, when I have an idea, I just write, send, see what sticks.
Do you find that that might help influence the type of video that you make if there's things that resonate, or have you tried
Yeah,
that?
certainly. Yeah. I mean, a lot of my TikTok content has come from just like questions and like people replying and asking, more follow-up questions. So, you got to put the ideas out there to get those follow-up questions. And then a lot of times that becomes the TikTok content. And then that might turn into like a Substack post. And then maybe also like a Medium blog, which I kind of treat as like my like FAQ
Hmm.
um, and
Interesting.
kind of more. Because I also like use that a lot when people reach out and they'll ask, I want to break into this field. Do you have any advice for me? Which is such a like a broad question. And so
Yeah.
basically I use my Medium blog as like, yes, here is all my advice. Like all of the FAQs I've gotten, I've turned into blog posts. Here you go. Start here. Like, let me know what else you want to know.
Are you going to port that over to the Substack, or are you going to keep it on Medium?
So I keep it on Medium because I feel like it's more like it's not as conversational. It's more like
Yeah.
it's more like a how-to kind of guides almost versus where I feel like Substack is maybe a little more like conversational, more fluid, more like this is what's on my mind today. It's not as like polished, I think, and whereas like I treat
Yeah.
my Medium content with a little more polish.
Oh,
But there
interesting.
is there is a lot of overlap, like
Yeah.
they're definitely talking about similar topics or I'll reference, if you want more, like here's a link to a relevant something I wrote on Medium.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I mean it's getting back to like the marketing and just having my whole like strategy and plan and like being intentional about each channel. I didn't even realize I was doing that until I was talking to someone else and she was like, this is intentional. Like you've really thought about like what platform makes sense for which like message or approach.
That's
So
an interesting comment, because I feel like with my content, there's no like there's obviously the book that I'm
mhm,
finishing right now, but for the posts, like I have a weekend newsletter, and that tends to be
mhm.
sort of just to keep me on a cadence and stuff. But yeah, there's really no rhyme or reason otherwise to anything that I do. But in the back of your head, though, I think you're right. There is sort of an implicit
Yeah.
strategy, whether you want to express it
Yeah.
or not.
Yeah.
So,
Sometimes you don't realize it until someone else points it out. And you're like, I guess I was
hmm,
doing that.
yeah, it happens. It's interesting. Are you using Substack more for like the notes feature or for like long form articles?
I've been doing long form. I feel like I need to use notes more.
Yeah,
Because I feel like when I started using it, I don't know if notes have always been a part of Substack or
I
if that
think they're
was like a
pretty
newer feature.
new-ish.
Yeah. And so,
Yeah,
you just kind of get in your habit of just like writing long form. And then you're like, oh, what's
yeah.
this new thing? Now I got to learn another thing.
And another thing, but it seems like Substack is becoming. I think it's going to be a pretty major social network probably the next year or so. Because I think people are leaving. Well,
Yeah.
people always threaten to leave platforms like LinkedIn, but then I do that too. But I'm still on there
I mean, you can't abandon LinkedIn.
because yeah, it is what it is. But
Yeah.
Substack's definitely turning more into I think an alternative.
Yeah.
Everyone right now I know is starting a Substack.
Yeah.
Everybody.
I don't know if you remember LiveJournal, but I know some people have said like Substack kind of feels like LiveJournal, which I was also like super into LiveJournal back in the day.
Yeah, that's like early 2000s, late 90s even. Yeah. No, I remember LiveJournal. Definitely has those vibes. It kind of feels like a cross between that, MySpace, and Tumblr.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I
but
can
yeah, I
see
mean, I
that.
was doing even Substack Live the other day, and that was pretty fun. But I think you just get
Yeah,
a lot more traction. People just show up to that. I had like, um, Yeah, more than I would on LinkedIn Live, but
Yeah.
nobody shows up to those anymore. So,
Yeah. I've done some like lives on TikTok and I just really hate the
mm,
UI because I don't know if I'll have to try Substack because the UI on TikTok Live, at least on the like the person presenting or whatever, it's so terrible. Like the comments just like it's like this tiny little like for
same.
comments and then like you can't like if you like miss someone's question you have to like scroll back. Is it the same on Substack?
It's the same too. Like you gotta, yeah, you have to be microscopically like
Yeah.
scroll. You know, that's what I imagine. It would definitely be in like Zoolander with the tiny phone kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, it just felt that the experience is horrible if you're the
Yeah, it
presenter.
is.
Then
It's
I
so bad.
yeah. So but you know the people don't seem to mind. I think they just see you you know making weird gestures, looking at your phone really intensely. See anything on the screen because it sucks. Fix it, Substack, please.
Yes. Yes, there's a big
You know,
opportunity there.
but it should be interesting to see what happens with content, right? Because I feel like with you know every day I'm seeing at least two, three friends starting Substacks, and so I feel like. But the thing is, you know, I hate to be that guy, but I think you know 90-95% of people aren't going to be on it, at least contributing content after more than about a month, just because you know how it is with
Yeah,
TikToks with anything. It's
it is. Yeah. I mean, you have to put out so much like content to like no audience with no reward before you get any traction. And most people, I think, give up before they get to that point.
yeah.
Which I don't blame them.
There's other things to do,
Exactly.
right? But I think it's also gonna. And it'll be curious to see what it does to the quality of the content as well, whether it
Mm-hmm.
raises it or lowers it, or. But I guess time will tell. Kind of back to the career advice that you give. So you started what was it 3-4 years ago? You said.
Yeah.
How have the conversations changed for career advice over that time?
Yeah. I mean, definitely when I started, it was like, yeah, 2021, 2022 around there. And like the job market was very different. So it was much easier to, I think, talk about a career in tech or a career in analytics because there was like the bar was a little bit lower. I mean, it was still a high bar, but you know, it was still possible to break into those fields. So it was easy to talk about. There was a huge audience that was interested in it. So you're getting lots of engagement, lots of questions. And then with like the shift in 2023 and the job market just completely turning around, and not to mention layoffs. I mean, I'm, you know, knock on wood, thankfully that's never impacted me, but certainly, you know, people that were creating content might not even be in those roles anymore. But now there's just less, you know, excitement, you know, so the audience I think is probably smaller now that it's not easy to like break into tech or break into analytics. So, you know, you're getting like lower view rates and less engagement, I think. But I think the people who are like left are like truly interested in this field. So I feel like I get fewer like random comments from people who are like, oh, I know nothing about this field, but I'm interested in it. How do I break in? Like there's less of that happening. And it's more people who are like, I'm in college studying data science, you know, I'm invested. Like, what advice do you have for me? And so for me, that's more interesting because I think well, maybe there's a bigger audience when it's like anybody can break into tech. You just feel like you're repeating the same questions over and over again, and it's not like a good quality, engaging conversation
What would be an
versus
example of a repetitive question that you would find yourself asking or answering over and over?
do I need a degree?
Okay.
What do I need to learn? How do I break into this field? Yeah, do I need a degree? I feel like is the like top question I get that I've answered a lot. And
What
I
was your
feel like
answer to
that's
that?
changed as well.
Yeah. What was the answer back in the day that you would have given of do you need a degree?
I feel like back then, you know, it was difficult but possible, I think, if you could really show how your like skills were transferable from something else and you know you learned the technical skills, you had a decent network, you were really dedicated to applying. I feel like now it's like just so much harder. Like you need the degree, you need the experience, you need the network, you need all of these things, you know, all the stars to align. So I think yeah, it's always been difficult, but I think it was a little more possible a few years ago. But yeah, but now it's kind of like, do you want to get a quantitative degree? Do you want to be an expert at all these technical skills, build out a portfolio, build out your network? You know, it's the bar is just like a lot higher now. So you
Yeah.
really
Like
have
what
to want this.
Yeah, like what is your advice right now? I mean, I'll caveat this by saying this would be a fun discussion actually.
Yeah.
I also get hit up a lot for career advice. I always tell people I haven't had to look for a job for a long time, so I'm probably going to give you
Yeah.
really really bad advice. But what's the advice that you'd give somebody today who is, you know, they're here, they're interested in going into data. What's Maggie's late 2025 advice?
You're probably going to have to start, if you're like starting from zero, you're going to have to start in a different role, probably. You're probably not going to land that analytics or data science role if you have zero work experience. So you might need to, find something else. Like, I think a really great path would be look at all of these data, like, companies, all these platforms, all these tech companies providing like data related solutions. Try to get a job there in like product support or customer success or sales support or something like that. You're not going to be doing data analytics, but you're going to be in kind of the world of data, and you're going to learn a lot about this tool or this product. You're probably going to get access to it yourself, and you can start using it yourself. And then you've got your foot in the door into, a name that a lot of data folks might recognize. But I think that would be my advice is, yeah, to just kind of build experience, build your network, build your reputation, and then presumably you have all the technical skills. You know SQL really well, you can pass an interview assessment, and then also build your network. It's always been my advice is like build your network, not just for job leads and referrals, but for people to turn to for advice. Like if you're just turning to me for advice, again, I'm just one person. So like diversify where you're getting your advice from, because this is such a broad field. There's so many different experiences. I've seen so many different career paths. And so you want to talk to as many people as possible and kind of learn from them.
Networking is also my biggest piece of advice, and I give this to everyone really, no matter if you're starting out, no matter if you've been 30, 40 years into your career even.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's probably the single biggest determining factor in terms of what you can do next. But the question is always, that's cool. Thanks for telling me I need to build my network. How do I do that?
Yeah. Yeah. So I've talked about this a ton, and it's like one of my favorite topics because like
Yeah.
I am not inherently an extroverted person. I've like learned how to be extroverted. But yeah, building your network, like every university has an alumni directory. They have some kind of online alumni mentor directory. For my undergrad and my grad programs, like I'm in the directories for both of the universities I attended, and like people reach out to me. So you can talk to alumni. You can find alumni on LinkedIn. Sending cold DMs on LinkedIn, I think, is a horrible networking strategy unless you have a really good connection. And I think having gone to the same university, people, usually have a really positive association. They're more likely to respond to that. So you can also, DM them on LinkedIn. And then industry events. I help plan industry events in Chicago. I help do Women in Data Science and Measure Camp. These are in-person events, and we love it when students show up or new folks trying to break into the field. Like there's no like requirement that you have to already be a professional to attend these events. And so I have, at these events as I'm running them, I've had people come up to me and say, like, I'm interested in this field. Can we connect on LinkedIn? You know, we'll have a conversation. Like that is such a great opportunity for networking that I think new folks don't take advantage of, because I think they're intimidated, which I totally understand, or they're shy. Like I get it. Like I have to, honestly, I have found being the one planning these events helps with the shyness because it gives you
Hmm.
something to do. And then people come up to me and start conversations, and I don't have to be the one starting conversations. So that's my other hack, is to like join the planning committee for these local industry events.
Oh,
Like it
yeah.
doesn't require any skills in data because we're not like doing data stuff. We're doing event planning, and anyone can do that. And then yeah, you'll get this presence at the events. People will have a positive association of you, so it'll help build your reputation. They'll want to connect with you on LinkedIn. So those are my big tips with networking. And then also just like in your day-to-day life, like I'm active in like local fitness communities and running clubs, and I've met so many people working in tech, working in data, working in Fortune 500, and that's been really good for my network as well.
Actually, I really like that advice of getting involved with the event itself.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I co-founded several meetups in the Salt Lake area where I am, and that was, and I think it was good in the sense where profile wise, you're part of the mix of things. You're finding speakers, you're hosting the event, you're getting to know people that show up, they get to know you, and It opened up a lot of doors for me, but it wasn't on purpose. It wasn't like I
Right.
said, oh, I'm going to do a meetup because that will obviously mean that I will be able to build my network and so forth. So yeah, I think you do have to go into it with the intentions of truly helping and being a part of the scene. But that compounds over time. You get to know people in a different way, and plus you get to see how you work too. Um, I've hired people who've spoken at meetups and helped out, and I felt like, okay, this person has a good work ethic. They can talk. See what
Hmm.
happens. So it's good. It's
Yeah.
good like that.
Yeah, and especially for students, it gives you a chance to build like all those soft skills that
Hmm.
like most students don't build those. They focus so much on all the technical stuff, all the math, and then they, don't know how to communicate or like see a project through end to end or like identify problems to solve, etc. And like you're developing all of those skills when you plan an event.
Oh yeah. And about attending an event, I would love your take on how do you show up to an event to network. I'll give you an example of probably what not to do. So I pulled a piece of paper here. I was at an event recently, and this bless his heart, but this guy comes up with a piece of paper and he's just reading off of it. Hi, my name is so and so. I have done this. I am interested in doing this, and I was like, oh man, it's cute, but it's
All right.
awkward. But yeah, it was
It's step
interesting.
one,
It's step
it's
one.
step one. At least he
Yeah.
showed up and he went up to someone. Like, that's impressive. And like,
Yeah.
I get it. Like, I am naturally like, can be a very shy person. And I'm sure I've been to so many events where I just like showed up, looked around, didn't talk to anybody, and left. And so now when I go, I try to, like, number one, I try to channel my best friend from high school. Like, we used to call her the cruise director because she just had that like personality. And so when I go, I'm like, I'm not going as Maggie. I am like cosplaying my friend Vera and like bringing that energy. Like, what would Vera do at this event? Who would she talk to? What would she do? And try to like channel that. And then I also try to like make it a goal. I'm like, I'm not allowed to go home until I talk to like three people or I connect to three
Mm.
people on LinkedIn. And then you kind of like make it a game. And then never underestimate just like if there's already a group of people talking, just like walking up and like standing next to them and kind of just like listening and then like waiting for an opportunity to join the conversation. And then another strategy is like if you do know someone in your community, like reach out to them and say, "Hey, I'm going to this event on this date. Do you want to join me?" And then like you have a buddy with you and then the two of you, at least you know someone else there, like you should show up because you don't want to let your friend down. And then then you need to make sure you don't just talk to that person all night because it's really easy to do
Right.
that. And so trying to then like you can talk to them but try to like if you see other people standing around you, bring them in to your conversation. And then the last point, kind of getting back to like channeling someone else and like or like role playing, is you'll probably see other people at the event who are awkwardly standing around like not talking to anybody. Like be their hero and like go talk to them and just like they're probably just like waiting for someone, like, please God, someone talk to me, but otherwise I'm going to leave in 5 minutes. And so just go up and introduce yourself and just say, hey, have you been to this event before? What did you think of the speaker? Where do you work? What do you do? So those are some of the strategies that I employ.
I like the framing of the dialogue that you would have too, where you make it about the other person and ask them
Hmm.
questions. Like I go to a lot of conferences, especially right now, it's conference season, and the big pet peeve is when somebody comes up and they just start talking about themselves the whole time, which is shockingly, it does happen quite a
Yeah.
bit. I'm kidding. And don't pitch the other person on if you have any product or anything you're trying to do, please don't go up and immediately start talking about it. It's weird. It's very off-putting. Like I had some gentleman come up to me, at a conference, recently and said, he's been messaging me on LinkedIn about his product. And he's like, what do I have to do to get my product in front of you? And I'm like, probably not like this. Right. So it
Yeah.
was just awkward as hell. And I just like, I just ignore it. But, but, the thing is when people, especially when they're not used to networking, when they go talk to people, I think there's a nervous reaction to start downloading on the other person everything, uploading, I suppose, whatever, just everything that you're about, everything you do. And the thing is, people are interested to a point, but dot dot dot, they're also interested in themselves. It goes back to the old classic Dale Carnegie book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Just
Yeah.
make the conversation about the other person. The best thing you can do is just ask open-ended questions about the other person. They'll think you're the best communicator of all time, even though you
Yeah.
didn't say anything.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I like to view networking as just like making friends with people who have a
Yeah.
similar professional path. It's not Like I think a lot of people feel like networking has to be this like process and this formal thing, and you're only allowed to talk about work and you're only allowed to talk about your job. But I love asking people like, what else do you do? What are your hobbies? It's fascinating. Like if we are all gravitating towards like data and math and analytics, there's a good chance we might overlap on some of the things we do for fun. And even if not, it's fun to like get to know what else people do. And then you can also always ask about like vacations. It's like an easy topic if you don't want to talk about work. But yeah, it's I just think about it like I'm just making friends with people who are like in my same field. And I have made actual friends from just networking. And it's great.
It is. So you're in Chicago, is that right? Yeah, what's the data scene like there?
Yeah, so there is like a low key happy hour Chicago data community meetup. And so that's been a mix. It's a lot of like sales folks from, vendors and platforms, which is fine. And then, some practitioners in like, yeah, analytics, data science, business intelligence. But like we don't have a huge like tech scene, obviously, like the Bay Area or something else. We do have a lot of satellite offices for a lot of tech companies, although most of those I think are predominantly like salespeople. So you do get a lot of folks who are working either maybe in a big tech company or a medium tech company, but also like a lot of startups, and then a lot of like services like insurance or consulting or finance. I think of kind of like some of the bigger industries in Chicago. So it's interesting. But it's not going to be like a bunch of like FANG data folks showing up because we don't really have a lot of those folks here.
Interesting. Yeah, Salt Lake is the same. I think in a lot of the other low key meetups. It's funny that's now a thing. So for the audience, a low key meetup, at least it started out this way at Flannery's in New York City. I think it was actually at the original one 3 years ago. Second one, I believe. Ethan Aaron started it, and it was simply a way to get people together in the New York community, which is surprisingly fragmented and small. You think New York is a big city? Tech scene is not that big in New York. There's a lot more stuff going. It's like Chicago. There's just other industries. So, but yeah, so it's everyone pays for their own drinks. You show up. No vendor pitches. No schlocky salespeople. You can show up, but just please don't harass people with your product pitches. And then it's taken off. It's become a global phenomenon. There's obviously Chicago. There's San Francisco has one. London. I've been to where else? Quite a few. I've been to a lot of events. So it's all a blur at this point. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that's the for the audience. That's what it is. So we have them in Salt Lake City too, where people apparently don't drink, but we do it here. So
Yeah.
yeah, it is interesting. Um, Kind of changing tack a bit. Like so, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, you're giving career advice on data related things. What are you seeing in terms of the advice when it comes to AI?
I think we're all still figuring it out. I think there's like some folks who are just really like all in. Like I think we're all at like different places in our AI journeys. There's a lot of fear of like AI is going to replace jobs. Is it even worth going into this field? In which case I say like, well, which field wouldn't, if it can replace us, like it's probably going to replace other jobs as well. So like that's a fear you should have everywhere if that's valid. But one thing I see, I am working at a company that is like going all in on AI, just obviously with content and like all the unstructured data we have. That's a huge opportunity. But, of course, like, and we encourage, internally to use AI as well. And I think where I see the value isn't in like replacing the tasks that humans have mastered, it is in automating and like tapping into the things that humans could never scale. And so like especially if you think about like unstructured data, like it's been really hard for humans to like take even like video, photo data, just text data, and capture all the metadata for that has been impossible. Like no human's going to sit there and like dictate all of it. And so like we've kind of seen that has been like growing, but I think now with AI it's just like exploding, where I feel like things like that are the opportunities to solve and not necessarily replacing people. So I think companies that see AI as a way to like replace people and reduce headcount, that's not very innovative. I don't see those companies kind of thriving versus the companies where it's like the humans are great, keep doing what you're doing. Let's find the problems that humans couldn't solve and go in on that. I think those are the companies that are going to succeed in this. And that's my view in a perfect world. But I'm sure along the way, there's certainly companies that are like viewing this as a way to like reduce their headcount, which is unfortunate. I think that's probably going to backfire. And I think a lot of people are getting more resistant to AI. Like they're realizing this isn't going to solve all my problems. Like it's an amazing tool for certain problems. It's not going to solve everything. We can't just blindly use it. And I'm starting to see, I think, more resistance from people saying like, we should be more cautious about how we use it and not just like
Interesting.
slap it on everything, I think.
What are some of the things you're seeing in terms of resistance?
I mean, I think certainly like looking at like hiring for, like I think a lot of companies maybe are using like AI tools to try to like parse candidates and maybe to conduct their interviews. And I think they're starting to realize that also means on the flip side, candidates are doing that as well. And it's like, this is not a good solution. This isn't really helping us on either side, So maybe we should go back to in person interviews, even if that means like flying a candidate out and like meeting them in person. I'm starting to see like those conversations happening again. And then I think with learning, I really worry about like I'm so glad I finished my like master's degree before AI came out and like I was forced
Mm,
to like actually learn everything on my own. And I do have this fear that there, are a lot of folks who are just relying heavily on AI to learn, in which case you're not actually learning. And then like what is that going to do to not just our industry but any industry? And so I'm kind of curious how like universities are starting to adjust things to like make sure their students are actually learning and not just like copying and pasting from AI. Are they going back to like the old blue books for essays and tests in college? So yeah.
yeah, it is interesting. I have spoken with many professors about this. I don't think that there's. It's sad because especially when you're talking about universities, academia tends to move just at a snail's pace on
Yeah.
a good day.
Oh yeah.
And now you have this technology that's rapidly improving on. It seems almost a daily basis. It seems like every week there's a new model that comes out, or every few weeks, and so coupling that with just one of my friends, he teaches a causal inference class for grad school over at the University of Utah, where I occasionally will teach as well. But yeah, he said this was the first semester, this fall semester, where he noticed that every student had basically succumbed to the AI. And he could tell because all of their assignments were mostly just very bullshit answers. Like they didn't make any sense. There's nothing there. It wasn't what he had taught. And it became very clear that they'd plugged this into one of the AIs, copy pasted their answer, and that was it. And so he had to have a very stern talk with his class. And the way he's addressing this now is, you're going to have to be able to verbally defend your answer, and if you don't, you're going to get a zero for this assignment.
Yeah.
Since you're spending good money on this class, you probably don't want to fail it. So maybe learn the material we're teaching. So that was his approach, but it's hard. Other teachers that I'm seeing, are all in on AI, and they're like, if you find, if you want to use it, go for it. But evaluating the correctness of the answers and whether or not the student is learning is a big, big, big problem. And you're seeing this also in, um, K through 12 in the U.S. too. I mean, I caught my son doing this a few months ago, or early in the semester here. But he was doing algebra. He's a freshman in high school, copy pasting his formulas into Google or whatever and getting an answer out of it and just putting it in. I said, look, uh, I know I can solve it for you, but do you understand what you're doing? It's like, I know how this works. Like, fine. We're going to go through every one of these questions. You're going to do them by hand, and you're going to show me that you know how to do this. And I think he got 50%. I'm like, you're full of shit. You're not doing this anymore. We're going to do this the old way until until
Yeah.
you can prove to me that you know how to do this. And
Yeah.
so it's hard, though. It's hard.
Yeah. But I think that's a good lesson because, like, once you get on the job, when you're presenting your work, you're going to get questions. And, like, if you don't know what you're talking about, it's like terrible. That's going to be a terrible look if you're like presenting to your boss or executives and they're like, you got this model and you're like, here's the accuracy. And they're like, okay, what does that mean? And if you can't explain it to them, because they need the like, explain like I'm five. What are you talking about? And if you can't, you're going to lose trust. You're going to, make your boss look bad that they are putting you in front of someone else. So I think, yeah, that's a really good lesson that you need to be able to talk to your work. Otherwise, you're going to fail really fast in the real world.
Is that advice that you've given people in your content?
Actually, no, I don't know that I've ever given that advice, but it's something definitely like when I'm preparing my own presentations, like, I've learned pretty quickly, like, you need to know what you're presenting inside and out. You need to anticipate all the like fringe questions, the edge cases, because that is going to come up on the spot when you're delivering your presentation. And if you don't have a good answer, I know for me, it's like, I'm just going to fall apart and get nervous and like it's not going to go well. Mostly because just how my brain works. Like I'm definitely someone who needs to over prepare because I can't always think on the spot when I'm like in front of an audience. So, but yeah, I think it makes sense with this whole like AI conversation and like understanding what you're actually putting out there versus just blindly copying it from ChatGPT or something.
Oh yeah, and everyone's doing it now. I mean, there's a whole in the workforce. I mean, if your company's not providing you with good AI tools, you're going to bring your own at this point. Don't
Yeah, yeah.
don't know
And
any different
again, I
about it.
mean, I think like as a tool, it has use and value. But I also
Hmm.
like I forget who where I saw it first, but like, we can't forget that it's artificial intelligence, and so don't replace your human intelligence with something that's artificial. Where
Yeah,
it matters. You can use it as like a companion. Like I love using AI for like brainstorming and like some ideas to get me started. And then yes, I do sometimes use it when I'm like writing code and like, debugging an error or something. But I
really
would
good.
never like have it, write a whole notebook or something
Right.
because it's probably going to be garbage.
Yeah, yeah, it will be. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think the way I've been writing right now, it's been interesting. Like use it as a sounding board for a lot of things. Because I travel a lot too, and I sometimes don't have my laptop in front of me. I've been writing chapters of my book, actually, just doing voice to text, and then going through editing it. But then I'll actually throw it into an LLM. I'll say, so give me feedback on what I just ranted about here, and let's
Yeah.
talk about it. And it's been really good at evaluating flow and structure of an argument and a conversation, and providing a lot of the missing pieces. Because so that's I've been finding really good use for it. But then again, you don't want to be like Deloitte just got in big trouble
Yeah.
for using LLM to give a report to a client. I think it was Australia or something like that, and it was wrong. Had
Yeah.
a bunch of fake stuff in there, and it was. So they pay a big fine on that. And the EU actually just recently, I think today or somebody did a big study that was just published about how like 47% of the news that AI generates is false. And so they looked at the free versions of ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini. I think I can't remember which other one, but overwhelmingly it was just citing just false facts. So it's a 69-page report. I need to look through it, but um, I think that's a big concern, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That is concerning.
Yeah. Well, it is. I think it's also concerning because it poses a threat to, I think, democracy and well, and to societies. Because if these are the free versions, and you have to use the paid version to get decent news, perhaps.
Yeah.
I mean, you start having, basically information deserts like you do with food
Hmm.
deserts in inner cities, and that's, I think, pretty horrifying to think of. But
Yeah. That's a good point.
that's where it is. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. But in terms of like you say with education and stuff, like that's is the reality we're in right now. So I don't know. What do you think about that? Like, what advice would you have to? Actually, here's a question I'm going to ask you because I think about this a lot. So I'm a junior. I'm out of high school. Should I go all in on learning these AI tools in order to give me an edge when I start looking for jobs?
I mean, I think learning about them is great, understanding how they work, understanding that, there's not like a person on the other side. It's truly just like using math to predict the next best word or sentence. So I think having an understanding of it is good. I think understanding like the different tools that are available is certainly helpful and like how the different models work and, which ones are good for different problems. So yeah, I think there's a lot of value in knowing them as long as you're not becoming reliant on them. And again, like replacing your own knowledge with just over reliance on
Yeah.
AI.
How are you using AI in your day to day?
Yeah, as I mentioned, like debugging, I think is probably the most common one. And then sometimes just like getting started on a project. Like I had um, an initial project I was given. And so just kind of like asking for an outline of like, how to approach this project. And then from there, just like iterating on like what I think is the right thing, but just kind of getting started and making sure like I didn't have any like blind spots in this whole like project plan. And then for like my content, I've been doing, recording my own conversations as like a podcast. And so dumping the transcript and just being like, can you summarize this to give me just, like the description? Because, reading transcripts, I think, is like really painful.
Ugh.
And so I was like, all right, AI, help me out here. So that was good. And then just like brainstorming, like sometimes if I have writer's block, I'll use it to kind of help me like flush out ideas and kind of think about things. But yeah, I think it's a helpful tool, but truly remembering like it is just a tool. It's not
Yeah.
all knowing, and it shouldn't replace you.
Not yet, anyway. I'm kidding. That'll be interesting too. Yeah, I'm curious when we hit that point, but who knows? Some people say 2027 we'll be there, and then it'll just be all AGI or something will be there. You just got to give Sam Altman enough money, and he'll do
Yeah.
it.
Have
So
we hit?
yeah.
I was just watching the Terminator the other day, and I forget what year in the first Terminator, like what year they'd come back from, and like with Skynet and all of that. I feel like it wasn't as far in the future as I thought. Like certainly when it came out, it was far in the future, but I was like, wait a minute, we're not that far.
What year did Terminator take place? Let me see here. It's set from 2029 to 1984. So yeah, the cybernetic assassin is sent from the year 2029. So that's actually like not that far off,
Yeah,
right? But then that would entail that they had that war that was going on between humans and machines, and then
yeah,
Sarah Connor and John Connor actually did something in that amount of time. So that would have probably assumed it started about, I don't know,
yeah.
a couple years from now, actually. So maybe it's on track. Maybe it was a
Maybe,
documentary, actually. I
maybe.
don't know. That was
Yeah,
sent from the past, from the
yeah,
future.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Back to the Future 2 got a few things right. They were just maybe like a couple years off, I think.
Hmm.
So it's kind of funny.
Yeah, yeah, it is interesting. I mean, I grew up reading books by people like Ray Kurzweil as well. So he's the one who's been championing the singularity since the 90s. And that's the curve fitting exercise where, like, this computational progress in AI will increase on an exponential curve. And by about this time, actually, between now and 2030, you'll have sentient AI that will just benefit mankind or destroy it, whichever. And so, yeah, it's been interesting because surprisingly, the curve has still held, which I find is pretty fascinating. So I have no idea. But is that pure coincidence? I don't know. You couldn't have foreseen things like ChatGPT and language models and all that. So I think it's just, yeah, it is an interesting one. But then you go to like the Bay Area and everyone there is just, it feels like just live about 5 years in the future. So I don't know.
Yeah, that is a nice thing about living in like Chicago. I'm like, I feel like we're still down to earth here.
Well, yeah, I was in your city in July. It's a great city. Yeah, it's like charming. Well, I mean, I come from the
Yeah,
Midwest originally,
yeah,
right?
yeah. We do
So
still have the
yeah,
Midwest charm.
yeah, it's a bigger city. It's very pretty. So well, awesome. Anything you're excited about over the next year?
Oh man, I don't know. I think yeah, with some of the events I plan, I think we're trying to just make them like bigger and better for our communities.
Mm,
So I'm kind of curious to see how those go and if we kind of maybe can build a bigger community in Chicago. We'll see. But otherwise, I don't know. Yeah, just settle into my new job and hopefully find success there as well.
well, good luck to that. Yeah, that's
Thanks.
awesome. Yeah. Well, when are your events? When do they happen?
Yeah, so Women in Data Science, we do in Chicago, we do like a mini conference in the spring, and usually like late March, early April. We haven't set our date for next year yet. But we're trying to do more like smaller one-off events. We actually have one this Thursday, just like with one speaker. And then with Measure Camp, that's usually in September. I think we've already set the date for next year. I think it's like the second or third Saturday in September. So yeah,
It's awesome.
come find me there.
That's cool. Congrats. Yeah, events are not easy, so more power to you if you can make it a success. But yeah, congrats on the success there. For people who want to find out more about you, how can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm on TikTok, Instagram, and Substack. Right now my handle is like data storyteller. So just search for data storyteller and hopefully I'll pop up.
Okay, she'll tell you some stories, answer all your questions.
Yeah.
Awesome, Maggie. Great to finally connect, and
Yeah.
yeah, have a good day. Talk to you
You
later.
too. Bye.
Bye bye.